I make $30,000 a month with 26 Airbnb arbitrage properties that I don't even own. This is the exact blueprint that you need to actually start this business. No fluff, no waste of time. But if you can't sit through this breakdown, to be honest, you probably should just click off now because this is not going to be for you. So my name is Aurelio, and just a few years ago, I was a Division I college baseball player. My entire identity was to play professionally in the MLB, but one moment, everything changed. A freak accident shattered my shoulder, tore both my labrums, and with that, my dream of going pro was entirely down the toilet. I was lost. As I sat in my hospital bed, I started seeing what everyone around me was doing. They were settling for the safe path, 9-to-5 jobs, trading time for money, living for the weekends, and I knew that wasn't the life that I personally wanted. I wanted to break the mold, but breaking the mold was not easy. I maxed out credit cards, I got denied by 7 different banks. I felt like I was failing at everything that I tried until I discovered how successful investors really built their Airbnb or real estate portfolios in general. Airbnb arbitrage opened up doors that I could have never imagined. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you the exact 4-step system that took me from that hospital bed to financial freedom. Now, by the end, you'll have everything that you need to get your first profitable Airbnb unit within the next 30 to 45 days. So step number 1, find the perfect market and property. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you something. Why do 90% of people who try Airbnb arbitrage fail within their first 6 months? It's not because they can't talk to landlords, it's because they pick the wrong properties in the wrong markets. Now listen, you could follow everything else perfectly, but if you pick the wrong property, you'll struggle every single month. However, if you pick the right property using my system, you can make mistakes everywhere else and still profit $3,000 to $6,000 per month. Now, I had a student who got a property in downtown Miami, luxury building, great photos, making $800 a month. Another student got a property in Birmingham, Alabama. Looks ordinary, but he's making $4,200 a month. What's the difference? They understood what I'm about to tell you right now. But first, why not just buy properties instead of renting them? See, I used to think the same way. Then I did the math. So let's break it down. Traditional real estate buying looks exactly like this. So per property, you have a $50,000 down payment, $3,000 closing costs, $5,000 in repairs, $4,000 to furnish, total $62 grand per property. Monthly cash flow after mortgage, insurance, taxes, maintenance, everything is $950 a month. Now, to reach a $10,000 a month with that real estate portfolio, you need 10.5 properties. The total investment on that is over $651,000. Now, this is Airbnb arbitrage, and this is what it looks like. Per property, $1,800 security deposit, $1,800 first month's rent, and $4,000 in furnishings. $400 setup, totaling about $8 grand per property. Now, the monthly cash flow after rent, utilities, cleaning, everything, $1,250 a month. And to reach a $10,000 a month with this business model, you need about 8 total properties. The total investment to get there is only 64 grand. Same income goal, but 651,000 versus 64 grand. That's over 10 times less capital with arbitrage. Now, let me give you a real example. Jake, one of my clients, 24 years old, had a mobile detailing business making over $3,000 a month. That was 8 months ago. Now he has 10 Airbnbs making over $26,000 a month. Capital needed, only 40 grand. And most of it, $30,000 of it, was put on 0% interest business credit cards. Now, if he'd bought one property with that 40 grand, he would just have one Airbnb. Instead, he rented properties with arbitrage and scaled to 10 doors in 8 months. So it would have taken him 15 years. He did it under a year because he did arbitrage first. Here's the game changer most people miss. Who you target determines everything. Most people think Airbnb is about vacationers, but we found a better approach. We target busy traveling professionals, nurses, doctors, consultants, engineers, executives on temporary assignments. Why? Well, listen, vacationers stay for 1 to 2 nights, maybe 3, and they pay $80 to $100 a night. Very seasonal, and you have a large risk of partiers. Well, if you look on the other hand, traveling professionals stay 1 to 4 weeks. They pay $150 to $300 a night, and it's year-round demand. Respectful guests, and the company pays for their stay. This makes the business recession-proof. So when the economy tanks, people stop taking vacations, but nurses, they still got to travel for assignments. So no matter the economy, no matter the season, those are the people that we want to serve to reach high occupancy rates. Now, consultants, they still go to client sites, and that's why I actually average 90% occupancy year round. Let's break down some real numbers. Now, I know this may look a little complex, so bear with me. So Gilbert, Arizona, 1-bedroom apartment. The monthly rent is $1,100. The Airbnb nightly rate is we're going to be charging $130 a night. The target occupancy is 24 nights out of the entire month. That's 80% occupancy. Gross revenue is $3,100 a month, and expenses, which is going to be $1,100 for rent, utilities, which is $275, cleaning $600, supplies $100. So the total expenses, everything I just mentioned there, is about $2,075. Now, net profit basically boils down to $1,045 $1,200 a month when you deduct the two. That's $12,540 per year. Now the startup costs, first month's rent, which is $1,100, the security deposit, which usually matches it, so we'll call it another $1,100, furniture, $4,000, setup for the property, about $400. The total of that is $6,600. Now year one, your profit, like I said, is $12,540, and the startup is $6,600. Your ROI on that is 190%. Now listen, you nearly double your money. Let's look at year two. Another $12,000 in profit, cumulative, and then 25 grand in your second year. Year three, another 12 grand, cumulative, $37,620. That's over 5.5 times your investment in 3 years. You invest $6,600 once and make $37,620 in 3 years from an apartment or house that you don't even own. No mortgage, no hundreds of thousands at risk, and you could rinse and repeat the system. So what makes the perfect property? Within 15 minutes of a major hospital, corporate center, safe neighborhood, easy highway access, got good parking, and studio to 2 bedrooms are the properties that we like to target. Now you want to have an in-unit washer and dryer, fast Wi-Fi, and you want to stay between the $1,200 to $2,500 rent range. The numbers have to work. So rent must be 50% or less of the Airbnb revenue. Minimum $800 profit per bedroom door. Now the break even at 50% occupancy. Now, how can I analyze markets in under 10 minutes? First things first is the demand test. Gotta have 50 plus active Airbnbs. Rate test, properties getting over $100 plus a night. And the occupancy test, booked over 20 days per month. If yes to all three, it's viable. And you could do this out of state. For instance, Tabinda, one of my clients, she lives in one state and has 2 properties in Phoenix. She's never seen them in person. She's making $10,000 a month in profit. You can manage remotely with the technology and local teams that we set up for our clients. Now, step number 2, we want to secure the landlord partnership. Now, this is super crucial. First things first, a lot of people don't position themselves correctly to actually land the deals. So most people kind of get stuck trying to not only find the right markets, but landing their first property and getting their first yes. And this is the problem. Most people just come right out and they pitch, hey, can I sublease your property for Airbnb? Most people are just going to say no, right? It's like walking into the bank and asking them if you can have money. So this is what you need to do. There's 2 things that we're going to break this down. You need to position yourselves in the correct way to identify that you're actually solving landlords' problems. So let's take a look. Landlords have massive goals. When they continue buying properties, every time they bring a new one to the portfolio, they need to find someone that's going to stay in there long term and pay consistent rent so the landlord can obviously pay the mortgage. But the problem is they have a bunch of headaches with tenant turnover, finding those good quality tenants that aren't going to destroy their property, actually pay rent on time, or who knows, even continue renewing the lease. So why I bring up of positioning yourselves to identify the landlord's goals is because we got to know their goals and where they're trying to get to. Most times these people own hundreds of properties, whether they're apartment complexes or multifamily houses. Their goals are to continue buying more properties, but they can't do so unless the properties they have in their portfolio are actually occupied from tenants that are paying rent every single month. So that's where someone like us comes in. When we come in and we position ourselves in the correct way and say, hey, listen, I'm going to go ahead and solve all these problems for you. Instead of you working from B to C, meaning business to consumer, which is the landlord, to the tenant, well, we can work B to B. So you're the business and I'm the business. And I will be your long-term tenant, meaning I can take multiple properties from you. I will sign all the leases in my business name, and I will go ahead and continue providing consistent rent every single month, which as you can go ahead and continue buying more properties because you have rent that's in your pocket to pay your mortgage and of course the profit that you want to make. So that's really what it boils down to. And when you position yourselves in the correct way, that gives them an eye-opening experience, because most people think, well, why wouldn't the landlord just Airbnb it themselves? And that's a good question, but most of these people, they don't want to learn a whole new skill set for short-term rentals and pricing and systems and automations. They just want to continue growing their portfolios because they've already built the cash flow. Now they're about preserving their wealth. So when we come in here and we say we could sign multiple properties, well, let's look at it this way. If I come in and I say, hey, listen, I'll sign 10 properties from you over the course of the next 3-5 years. Well, instead of you dealing with 10 different tenants, you're dealing with one person, that's myself. You don't need a property manager. I'm going to manage the properties for you. I have a professional cleaning team coming in here monthly to ensure the property's in tip-top shape. It provides so much value to these landlords where the smart landlord, the smart businessman or smart businesswoman isn't going to say no to you. So this is where most people go wrong, is they don't position themselves in the correct way to get these landlords to say yes to them. So you need to identify their goals and you need to to pitch them properly in their consent, of course, allowing to do Airbnb, but you need to provide the solution, and that's how you get them to move forward with you. So the third step is going to be automate with AI powered operations. So first things first, where so many people go wrong is they get into this first off to create passive income, build generational wealth, and break into real estate and all that good stuff. But the problem that ends up happening is most people end up creating a whole nother job for themselves to run this portfolio, whether it's on top of their W-2, on top of their other businesses that they run. And what seems to happen is they step over the right systems, teams, and automations that need to be put in place from day one. And this is exactly what I help with my clients is like, once we secure the first property, the foundational part of the business needs to be built alongside securing that first deal, because now the hard part's over. So I want to take a zoom out and I want you to think of like developers when they build homes. They start from the soil and the foundation and they work up. Well, it's the same thing in business. Alongside getting your first property, you have to put the right systems, teams, and automations, because that's what allowing you to scale to $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month while really only working 5 to 10 hours a week on this thing. So here's the thing. You need to leverage the technology and AI that we have in today's day and age. So there's tons of automations out there, and we're going to break down a few of them. So the first thing that I use is going to be a property management software called Hospitable. What this is going to allow us to do is automate about 75 to 80% of the guest communication. So we're able to plug in automated messaging templates, welcome messages, check-in messages, check-out messages, all the good stuff. So when guests book with you, they get all the information they need on the front end to not only have a smooth stay, but have a wonderful check-in. Now, the next thing is you're going to want to set up a cleaning software. I specifically use Turno. Turno is really, really awesome. It's basically going to allow you to automate 100% of the cleaner scheduling. So it's going to hook up to your Airbnb account. It's going to hook up to all your other short-term rental websites. So every time you get bookings that come in, your cleaners will know exactly what property to clean on what day and what time. I see time and time again, people get properties, they're texting their cleaners every single week, doing scheduling, making sure they're showing up to properties on time. That is not where your time, focus, and energy needs to go in any business, quite frankly. Your time, focus, and energy needs to go into scaling the portfolio, landing more deals, creating new relationships, and actually making more revenue. That's the most important thing. Now, the third software is going to be Price Labs. Now, Price Labs is an AI dynamic pricing software. I help all my clients set this up. A lot of people use Price Labs in the Airbnb space, but it's really important on how you program it. So pricing is more of an art than a science. You need to find your price ceiling and you need to find your price floor in the market that you operate in. So the longer that you operate in your market, you're able to go back on the information of other bookings, what guests are willing to pay, and that's really how you structure your pricing. So you really can see what are people willing to pay at the top and what are people willing to pay if you need to get a last minute booking. What do you have to drop your price to rather? So that's really the most important thing. And Price Labs does pretty much 90% of that work for us, but you just have to program it correctly. Now, in addition to that, you need to use something called rule sets. Rule sets are in Airbnb, and that's the only pricing stuff that you should touch on the Airbnb platform, because the Price Labs software is going to overrun anything that you do in Airbnb separate from the rule sets that we're about to uncover right now. I want you to imagine a calendar month, right? Well, let's say the first week and a half we have a booking, and then after that we have a 5-day gap that's not booked, but then the remainder of the 2.5 weeks or whatever is left in the month is booked. That 5-day gap, we have to get booked. So if we're charging $100 a night and that 5-day gap doesn't get booked, that's $500 a month that we're leaving on the table. So myself and my team and all my clients use something called rule sets. Rule sets are extremely important. It's something that we can put in those gaps on the calendar to offer discounts. So if someone stays for 2 days, they get a discount. If they stay for 3 days, they get a better discount, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. It basically gives them an opportunity to say, hey, if I stay longer, I'm going to get a better nightly rate. And that's what's going to allow you to fill in those gaps in the calendar to reach these 90 to 100% occupancy months. Now, the fourth software is going to be Remote Lock. Remote Lock is awesome. There's a ton of lock softwares that you can use. Remote Lock is just the one that I currently use with my clients as well. And this is going to allow you to generate temporary codes for all the guests that you host. So when someone books with you, they will get a welcome message sent to them with a specific temporary code for their entire duration of their stay. This way, they have a same code checking in and out every single time. And then when they check out, that code expires. And then another guest will have a completely new code. So that's Remote Lock. That's going to allow you to save a lot of time. This way, when you're sending the automated welcome message, you don't have to input a specific code that you generated. Remote Lock takes care of all that for you. So those are the most important systems and automations that you need to put in place. And that's what I do with all my clients with our Done For You program, is to build this foundation alongside of getting that first property. It's now the hard part's done. First property's up and running. systems, teams, automations are in place. Now all you got to do is scale and continue adding properties into the portfolio. Step 4 is going to be multiply and scale with business credit. Now let's talk about scaling. You could stop here and build, $3,000 to a $5,000 a month with 1 or 2 property portfolio, but one property changes your month, multiple properties changes your life. Now the difference between $4,000 and a $15,000 a month isn't working 3 times harder. It's having the right funding strategy. Now most people use their own money, and that's the biggest mistake that you can do. Using your own money, it's going to limit you guys because you're limited to your savings. It takes years per property. You get high personal risk and it's slow growth. Now using business credit, you get access to 20 grand to $100,000 plus at 0% interest. You could fund 3 to 5 properties immediately, no personal risk and rapid scaling. One of my students in Phoenix started with $5,000 of his own money and his first property was profitable at $1,400 a month. We applied my credit strategy, got him 47 grand in business credit, and he funded 3 more properties and now he's making $6,200 total. The ROI on that is 157% annually. With 50% in business credit, you can easily fund 5 to 8 properties without even touching your personal money, right? You got the security deposit, let's say $1,500 to $3,000, first month's rent, which is $1,200 to $2,500, furniture, let's say $3 to $5 grand, which is totaling on average $5,700 to $10,500 per property. Imagine having $50,000 in 0% interest business credit cards available. You find 4 perfect properties in 1 month instead of waiting years to save. You secure all 4 immediately. Within 90 days, you're generating $12,000 a month. Credit pays for itself. You own a business, giving complete financial freedom. All right, so let's recap. Step number 1, we went over finding profitable markets and properties targeting traveling professionals. Step 2, securing landlords with an 87% success rate using the exact framework that I use. Step 3, automating with systems, teams, automations using AI to handle 90% of the work. And step 4, multiplying this business with 0% interest business credit cards to scale without your personal money. Now look, I know this is a lot of information, and if you're thinking, okay, Aurelio, this makes sense, but I need help actually going through this and doing it step by step, I get it. That's why I work with a small group of serious people. So if you want to explore working together, there's a link in the description where you can book a call with me personally. We'll talk about your situation, see if it's the right fit on both ends, and I'll show you exactly how we can help get your first property up and running all the way A to Z. But whether you work with me or not, you now have the blueprint and you have the 7-step system to find properties, secure landlords, automate operations, and scale with business credit. The only question left is, are you going to take action? Because the people who take action are the ones who actually get results. So if you're ready, we'll do this together. I'll see you on the inside.